Welcome, everybody. I am so honored to have Alissa here today. And we're going to have a little bit of a different conversation because Alissa works in preventative healthcare, whereas I work with a lot of health practitioners and coaches who work with people who are trying to transform an existing condition. And so I'm really excited to have this different point of view and talk a lot about how you've been able to do that. So welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for being here. And so let's start off telling everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, very good. Hi, everyone. My name is Alissa. I am a pharmacist by training and worked for years in hospital practice and in psychiatric practice. I'm board certified in psychiatric pharmacy as well as nutritional genomics. And so that's my little formal introduction. So I veered off from the hospital and psychiatric practice when my son was born, and I had to kind of reevaluate what was important in my work-life balance and what I really wanted for my future and for my family's future. And so I founded a practice called Prescribed DNA, where I do genetic testing for medications and nutrition and some other specialized testing. I won't get into the weeds too much there, but through the process of hurdles and ups and downs of working in a practice like this, where I'm helping anyone with everything and kind of like all over the map, depending on what people need, I decided to really focus on doing one thing. And through my journey of my own genetic testing, I learned that I am at an increased genetic risk of Alzheimer's based on a very specific gene. And so I created this program to help people like me who know that they're at increased genetic risk based on genetic findings or family history, and to prevent Alzheimer's from destroying their future. So it is a little bit different, like you were saying, Lori, in that it's well, we'll probably talk about that, right? Like the kind of ups and downs of trying to help people with a prevention aspect versus a bleeding neck problem, as you know, is often the phrase. So
yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I hear from health professionals is, I want to do prevention. I want to do preventative, cancer. I want to do preventative dementia. And I always say, that's great, but what's the problem? Like there still prevention for education's sake doesn't work. Right?
Correct.
And so, and that's, I think, one of the best things about what you've done is you've really gotten clear on how to work with people in a preventative way, because there's still a problem. There's still a fear. There's still a desired outcome. There's still a journey that they have to take. And I think that's the disconnect for a lot of health professionals is they focus so much on educating people and educating and, preventative healthcare, preventative medicine. And I'm like, yeah, but like you can just Google that.
Yep.
Right? You can just Google that. So tell me what your experience has been like learning the marketing aspect, learning how to take the necessary education that is required for prevention, but do it in a way where people actually pay attention and want to know more. What was that like for you? Like finding your niche and sort of turning your experience into marketing?
Well, it's still very much a work in progress, and I think it will always be a work in progress. Yeah. The thing that I have going for me, if you will, is a couple of things. One is that this is the age of prevention. People are sick of being sick. I mean, this isn't, I'm not out here, in like on an island somewhere. Nope. There are a lot of people getting on the rooftops and shouting about the importance, and people are tired of the healthcare system and the way that it's, so I think that people already have a little bit of a buy-in, which helps, right? I don't have to introduce this topic to them. They're aware that it exists and they're looking for it.
Yeah.
The other aspect of it, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit there, is that there still has to be a problem. And the problem for my people is that they are terrified, right? Most of these women have currently a mother who have Alzheimer's. And I say women because that tends to be my people, of course, just like you, sometimes a man comes through. Yeah. But for the most part,
it's the lone man on the coaching calls. Yes.
So, but they have mothers who are currently or very recently have passed with Alzheimer's. And so
Yes.
that fear is very real. And
Yes.
there are a number of things that people can be afraid of. I mean, most people are a little bit afraid of cancer. If they have family history, if they have like find a lump or bump, they can feel like that kind of fear. There's a different type of fear when we're talking about Alzheimer's, because you're not losing your life, you're losing who you are. And that's a different kind of discussion that to have with people. So it is still very much a work in progress. And I'm not, not batting 100 or whatever the phrase is, whatever, how that goes. But the focus is really on helping them to feel better now, knowing that they're doing everything that they can to prevent or postpone Alzheimer's in the future. And so the other thing that's really helpful is that this isn't something you say you can Google it, you can look it up. And for a lot of lifestyle things, that's true. And we can have a whole conversation about the necessary elements of support and all that kind of stuff to make those lifestyle changes. But what differentiates what I'm offering from your Google search is that I have a very involved testing panel that really can help guide decision making and efforts based on people's genetics and biomarkers that they have. So it's apart a little bit more from what you can just read in a book.
Yeah. And I think this is, when people say to me, it's so saturated and there's so much out there, and I'm like, but like, I'm listening to you and I'm just like, I want that. Like, I want that.
We'll talk. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And so I think for those practitioners and coaches, this is such a good example of having a specialty, right? This is such a good example of, we use the language of purple duck, like how to differentiate yourself from purple ducks, because you're not the only one talking about this. And, I think the idea of you have obviously the background that you have, the expertise that you have, but you've sort of put it all together in this way that you can deliver care in a way that someone can't just go to their doctor and get.
Yep.
Right? That's not possible. And every interview that I do, it gets me more and more excited, because those of us with all of this knowledge and all of this training, we see the opportunity online and we see the opportunity to provide care in a way that is truly not available anywhere else.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so what was that like for you, going through Zero to Clients and really like learning how to take the vision for what you had for this program and putting it into a framework where you could deliver care online?
Well, I think it would have been, I'll just say, really hard to do without the really explicit step-by-step requirements. I'm not going to say suggestions. It's like, do this by this date. And so that was really helpful, because I tend to do exactly what you talk about in the program, which is you want to put all the stuff in there and do all that, and just like overwhelm it. And like, I know all these things and I need to tell you everything right now. And having that reminder of like, just making sure that people are better off, than where you found them, was really helpful in getting the thing done. And I tell you what, it's kind of funny, because in the beginning of this process, I had a whole thing set up where it was not for Alzheimer's prevention. It was for ADHD in children. And you could talk about how, I change my mind all the time. Right. Yeah. So, and I was working on that, for months. And it wasn't clicking, and I didn't love it. And I just didn't want it. That's a whole other conversation about why that wasn't what I wanted to do. And so it was through the Zero to Clients process that I was like, you know what, you have to do what you actually want to do. And it's going to be an uphill battle, because this prevention thing is different. And the whole, all of it's different. And so I used, what I was taught, and then having those deadlines and very step-by-step process really helped me to be like, okay, you can't think about it too much. Just get the stuff done, because done is better than perfect. Submit it, get it done, because people are going to get Alzheimer's without you. Right. And so it's like, I have to do this, because this is like such a horrific condition, which, the statistics on it are just like the whole healthcare system is failing. It's failing. There's nothing you can do about it once you get it. I mean, it's just the focus has to be on prevention. And so I had to really like just take the expertise from Zero to Clients and just remove my ego and all of that kind of like fear elements for myself, and just get the stuff done so that I can go on to help people prevent Alzheimer's. So
And I think that's such a common theme. Like I just did a prior interview with another client who is an endocrinologist, and she is, she's saying the same thing like as you, the medical, you know, there's a time and a place, like, if I break my arm, I go to the hospital, things
Yep.
like that. But, you know, I think we're all in agreement that, you know, the state of health, like it's broken, like it's broken. And the thing that I hear so often is like, well, why would anybody want to work with me when they can just Google it? And why, there's so much free information out there. And I'm like, it's clearly not helping. Like it's clearly not helping, even with all the podcasts and all of that. Like it's clearly, I don't even think we could put a dent right now, with everybody who is providing care online. Like I don't know that we're making a dent.
Yeah.
Sadly, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the current way, like place that we're at in terms of like the mental health and the disease and physical health and all of that. And so for you, what was it like to, do your webinar? What was it like to enroll clients? Like how did it start for you? How is it going now?
Again, a work in progress, and it will continue to be. And I think that's part of the beauty of doing something like this, right? Is that you hopefully never get like stuck in your groove to the point that you don't evolve and grow from each process and each iteration. But it was tough. I had a lot of resistance, and I still have to remind myself a resistance to what was taught in Zero to Clients as far as the webinar script and the call script, because I am a clinician, right? And I want to teach everything. And I'm doing the same thing that you warned me I was going to do, which is try to get into that teaching mode and talk clinically to people. And so I still have to remind myself that the webinar script, as if I followed it, I have a little bit of my own flavor on it, but for the most part, I followed this script and it works, right? So I still have to, after several times of doing this, I still have to remind myself that this is new information to these people, that a mindset change or lighting a spark in them, that they don't have to be afraid, that there are other options, that there is this whole other world that they can embark upon, is helpful in and of itself.
Yeah.
I don't have to teach them how much omega-3s that they need. That's not helpful. That's what they can Google. What I'm telling them is something different than what they can Google. And so there's a whole, I don't know that I'll ever totally get over it, but that's okay. I'm just going to do it anyways, right? Like that's cool. Do it anyway. And so, and I see the result is that, the webinar people show up, they engage, they book calls. The call script thing is still, again, a work in progress. I have a lot of mindset things that I'm still working on, but getting better. I'm better today than I was yesterday. And trying to remove the clinician aspect and really just don that coaching hat and guide them to the point they need to be, which is stop thinking you can answer this with Google and get an action plan, whether it be with me or elsewhere. You need to do something rather than sitting in your rocking chair looking at Google. So.
Yeah. And so when you're doing the enrollment script, enrolling clients into the program, is that reinforcing that mindset for you when you're using it and you see that it's working?
It does help. And I just have to, it's a strange process because I'll still hear myself doing it where I veer off track. Right. And the people, they can kind of evoke that situation because they share certain things. And I'm like, oh, I really need to say, no, just don't, just don't say anything now. Just let them keep talking. You don't have to fix what, the supplement thing that they're taking and try to address that, because we'll do that later. Right. It's just trying to just center myself and remember that I'm not helping them by giving them more information, that's not going to help them. And I'm not doing them, I'm doing them a disservice. If I do that, they'll take that information, excuse me, they'll consider it a Band-Aid and they'll go do what they've been doing, which is not helping them. So I think it will something that I have to continue to work on until the point where I am in a position where I, need to hire someone to take these calls. But until then, I just, this is a good push for myself too. Like we all need this kind of discomfort in our lives to feel like we're, growing as individuals as well. And so it's been one of those aspects of personal growth that I work on.
Yeah. And what do you charge for your program?
Well, so the full price for all of it, including the testing, is 7,000, and that includes quite a bit of testing. But I have been kind of toying with a little bit of a iteration on that to help people, because I'm not an elitist. $7,000 is a lot of money, and the people who are really needing, for the most part, people who are in really like dire health conditions, maybe don't have $7,000 to part with right now. And so
Yes.
looking at it as more like a lifetime value situation where I can help them in a stepwise approach, get them some foundational things in place. Maybe just start with the program and the weekly calls, then add on the testing for just the supplement regimen, then do the more advanced testing for toxins and cardiovascular risk and all that kind of stuff. And so it can be spread out over, a course of several months, right? So I get a nice ascension kind of idea, rather than, here's this one thing, it's $7,000, take it or leave it. And I've lost a lot of people that way.
Yeah. And I think,
right?
yes, absolutely. And I think giving people options, one of the most beautiful things about having an online coaching program is that you can give people options. It's like, you don't have to go and open up a new shop. You don't have to go and get a new, pharmacy because you want to change the way that you're doing something. You literally just change the script and add a checkout page.
I can do what I want. It's my business. I can do what I want, and I can, talk to the person who's on the other end of the line. Which, like I said, it's like, I had a call with a woman the other day, and I could I don't mean to generalize, but I do have a pretty good sense of, when I start talking to somebody, kind of where they're going to be as far as like socioeconomic status. And I'm not just trying to help people who have liquidity. Like, that's not who I am as a person. I grew up with very tight means. This is not like, I'm not an elitist. And so I don't want to just only help people if they can afford to do all of this stuff. Right. And so I could tell pretty immediately that I was talking to someone that didn't have a lot of financial means. And so, like, just gauging it a little bit. And now I'm not going to have the conversation with her about a $7,000 program. I'm not going to do that. Like, I just have to meet her where she is, because otherwise I'm going to scare her off. And then she's going to go on. And in my head, I'm thinking she's at a risk of Alzheimer's. And if I don't do something, like, am I just going to let her go, and not intervene when I know I can help? So it's, again, like I'm repeating myself now, it's a work in progress. And I'm still refining what is, I call my offer, and I think that's something that, we can't really get attached to, and helping to kind of curate that for what people actually want and what they need without overcomplicating things from my end as well. So it's a tricky balancing act.
And I think thank you for being so honest, because it's when I do coaching calls, and I'm working with clients who, are a year in, let's say, or more, I still have to remember, I'm like, oh, you like still don't know anything about what you're doing. Like, I have to remember that, because I get so excited and I'm like, you should do this and you should do this. And they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, I have to dial it back, because, like, even though a year can feel like I've been doing this for so long, it's like, if you think about a baby, like a 1-year-old,
not even walking yet, right?
Like, as compared to the duration of hopefully a long life, it's just 365 days. Like, it's not a long, like, in the span of having a business, like, I'm 12 years in, right? And so you have 1 year of experience. And so it's just, I think it's so amazing how far you can come in a year, and at the same time feel not far at all, right? Like, if you go back to, the day before you started working with us, you had nothing, like, you didn't have any, you had no business, you had no structure, you had nothing online. And then a year, fast forward a year later, you're working with clients. Like, that's wild.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's been a fun ride, and I'm looking forward to the future with excitement and also fear, right? Like, I feel like I hope I never get too comfortable. I hope it never becomes a thing. I mean, I think you talked about it as well. I don't know if it was in the program or, one of the calls or whatever, where you were reminiscing on, that kind of like discomfort that you felt 12 years ago, right? When you were first starting and how you missed that kind of like sense of like the anxiety that comes with the excitement of doing something new. And like, I hope I never get to the point where that's totally gone, right? I hope I
Yeah.
continue to feel just slightly uncomfortable with this whole thing,
Yes.
so that I have that like thing that is really motivating and driving to, I don't know
Mhm.
everybody. I can't say that that's good for everybody, but for me personally, I need that in my life, and this
Yeah.
helps me feel like that little like, oh, I don't want to do this.
And
It's uncomfortable.
you know what it is that's so interesting that you bring that up, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and there's such a separation. So the 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 vibe of it changes, where now the challenge for me is to allow it to be simple and boring, where that's a stretch for me, right? To allow it to be, it's set up, it rock and roll, like it's a machine, my business does all the things, and to allow it to be that way, because I've worked, like, that's where I'm at, right? Where it's like the stretch of allowing it to just live and breathe and grow. And obviously it's still work. I still work a lot and I want to. And then on the flip side, as you were saying that too, I was like, oh, that's so interesting, because at the beginning, it was all, for me, it was all about, and I'm sure for you too, like growing it and getting the clients and getting the experience and, growing the business. Whereas now I get motivated by my clients' growth. Like
Sure.
that, me making X dollars, is, as weird as this is going to sound, that doesn't do it for me, because I know how to do that. That's like not, like there'd have to be a major money milestone for it to like rock my world, which at this growth doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that quick. It doesn't happen that.
Mhm.
But when y'all have wins, when you tell me how much money you make, and when you tell me about a client who, whatever the case may be, like that now that's the win, right? So it's like the focus, as you grow and you build your business, like the focus shifts, but those motivators and that intrinsic sort of desire to pursue more is still there. It just changes, which is so interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for it to feel the different seasons, right? Of
Yes.
this journey. I'm going to be 40 in January, and so I have, knock wood, quite a few years left of
Yeah.
being active and kind of using my brain to the benefit of the people that I work with,
Yeah.
and hoping that I get to a point where the push is in, like you're saying, like there's a slight discomfort with not pushing things to
Yeah.
be uncomfortable, right? Like that's the discomfort, but just still having that. I mean, here we go. I got to get it all technical. There are studies to show, right? Like that when you push your brain to do things that are uncomfortable, that helps your brain stay, resilient to things like
Yes.
Alzheimer's and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I hope that I'm constantly challenging myself in that way. And I think that this is like the foundation,
Yeah.
a good avenue to be able to do that. Whereas I'm never going to be able to get too comfortable, especially because, with the new data, the new studies, new genetic information, there's always going to be that element of like something I have to push myself
Yeah.
to learn. And, the same
Yeah.
is true with online, helping people build online programs is like, as
AI, right? Like AI came out this
Yep.
year, and it's like
Yep.
now we're having to navigate that. And so, but I think it's so true. And I think, I've said this in every interview that I've done over the last couple of weeks. It's like we are the first generation of healthcare providers, of practitioners, of coaches who really have this opportunity. Yes, there was, virtual care and virtual practice, but that's still one-on-one. That wasn't coaching. That wasn't having an online business. That wasn't being able to deliver care virtually in the full scope that we do now. And it is, the thrilling thing for me, and I'm sure for you too, is that it's just the beginning. Like there's all this technology, there's all this new way of testing. Like I just saw, and this is going to take us off on a tangent, but I just saw on Instagram that and I'm going to maybe botch this, but there was something about now they're able to measure like estrogen receptors in the brain, whereas like they weren't able to really do that. It was only blood markers. And so now they're like really testing the estrogen receptors in the brain, which again, dementia, Alzheimer's, all of this stuff. Like, and I'm like, oh, this is so exciting. And like the nerd in me gets so, I'm like, I need to read that study. You know, the nerd in me gets so excited. And it's just, I feel like we're at the very beginning of what I hope is going to be a change in the way that care is delivered.
I sure hope so too, because it's not, when people say that phrase, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it is broke. Like with that, like the data are clear on that. You must have your head in the sand if you don't think that there's a big problem. And I fully, just want to echo your sentiment is like, you bet I'm going to have connections with a primary care in a, hospital system. You bet, because if the stuff really hits the fan, I'm going to be all about Western medicine, right?
Yes.
When it comes to making sure that I'm okay on a day-to-day basis, making sure that my children are okay, making sure my clients are okay, that's not, we have to work together, collaborative and everything with regular doctors, as I call them, but you can't just like, that's not enough. And we all have to trust ourselves more than we trust the doctors, which is a tough sell, especially for my people who, of that generation, right? Where it's like the questioning, their doctors is uncomfortable. And so, helping them with that. But the beauty of it is, like I was saying, is that people are, the veil has been lifted, and people are starting to realize that they've been duped a little bit with regard to, this uphill for every ill kind of.
Just eat healthy and you'll be okay.
Yeah. We'll eat healthy, eat all your grains, right?
Follow the food guide and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Avoid fat. Yeah. So yeah, this is it. It's a good day to be in this. It's uncomfortable. It's super uncomfortable. I worry all the time that, having a spotlight, spotlight, right? Like, who am I? Nobody cares about me yet. But, having this, my own personal spotlight on what I'm doing, putting myself out there, putting this message out there, is like, I feel like I'm kind of, on social media, like it's vulnerable is what my point is. And so, but that's cool. Do it anyway. And, if I have just a handful of people in my trail that don't get Alzheimer's because of the work that I did with them, then I'll call that a win. But hopefully it's more than that. Hopefully it's a ton of people in the future that don't have Alzheimer's because of the work that we've done. And so we'll see.
What comes to mind, actually, because I know we have to go, but I just wanted to say this. So we talk a lot about this in my family because we have a history of dementia and Alzheimer's and all of the markers and whatnot. And so my dad says, and I don't know if you watch Grey's Anatomy, but my dad says, oh, but Meredith Grey just found the link between the gut microbiome and Alzheimer's, so we're all going to be fine. And I was like, good for them.
Aww.
You know what? Thank you, Grey's Anatomy and Shonda Rhimes, and I forget her name in real life, Meredith Grey. And thank you for bringing that to the forefront, for educating people that, it's not just like, oh, you have Alzheimer's, there's nothing, like she in the show obviously is like, no, there's this link. And what if we can help people with their microbiome before they even get Alzheimer's? And so it's just, right. And people are like, so I do think that there is this shift. And I think that, to your point, like people are starting to wake up that it's not just like, you didn't just you didn't get diabetes, you didn't get Alzheimer's. Like there are preventative things that you can do, to support yourself.
Yes. And you can really fine tune that once you've collected your own data, right? Like that's the differentiation between doing preventative strategies, by yourself versus having your biomarkers and your DNA and all that kind of stuff in a personalized plan. So
and for everybody watching, like I hope that this inspires you, because if you have the ability to educate, whether it's prevention or, disease transformation, whatever it is, and you're sort of sitting there and you're watching this and you're like, I'm scared, come join the party. It's uncomfortable, but it's really fun. Like it's uncomfortable and it's really fun. And this is the future. Like this is where we're going, like to be able to, like Alissa, to be able to take all of that education and all of that information and to disseminate it online in a way that is going to help people that you would never have the opportunity to inside of the four walls of, you know, your pharmacy or your doctor's office or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And be more afraid. You know, it is, like I said, it's totally uncomfortable. I feel vulnerable every single day. I would be more afraid to not do this, right? Because I'd be so much more afraid of how I would think of myself 10 years, 20 years, you know, at the end of my life, had I not done the thing that I want to do. That's super terrifying. So, you know, do the thing that you're afraid of now to prevent bigger regrets in the future of not being uncomfortable. I'm getting rambly. Forget what I'm saying.
No, I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you
thank
for
you
having me.
everybody for watching, and we will chat soon. Bye.
Bye.